I'm gonna start this video off by saying that TikTok kind of gets a bad rap. And honestly, it's for a good reason. You can't look at this trend born on TikTok and not call it cringe. This is literally bottom of the barrel NPC behavior. And that's on top of all the other bottom feeder content on the platform. Which is a shame because there's a lot of great creators on the platform that just kind of get drowned out in the noise. Like one of my personal favorite creators, William H. Baker, who recreates shots from movies and explains in depth how he did it. I'm starting this video like this because I don't want people to think that I'm some sort of TikTok hater or I have some sort of bias against it. I can recognize that there is some good and some bad with it, like any other social media platform. Now, I've always had my critiques of movie TikTok, but I've never really had a reason to express them until today. Recently, 2 articles were brought to my attention, one of which made the rounds on Twitter and had many people upset. Mainly because of this inflammatory headline. They review movies on TikTok, but don't call them critics. On MovieTok, reviewers can reach an audience of millions and earn tens of thousands of dollars per post. Critics, they say, are old news. Now, this is nothing new. Traditional critics have been pushed to the wayside ever since sites like YouTube allowed any random person to pick up a camera and talk about their favorite media. The thing people were mostly upset about was the honestly smug rhetoric these creators used to insinuate that film discourse on TikTok was very appealing. Needless to say, many people disagreed. So I sat on this for a while, took some time to explore MovieTok, and came to a strange realization. 2 videos ago, I made a video on the critical drinker, and now his perspective on film was far too cynical and relied heavily on woke spotting, looking for forced politics that weren't actually there. Well, I believe I found the complete opposite issue on TikTok. Instead of overanalyzing films looking for bad politics, TikTok creators instead make reviews that are incredibly shallow and offer almost nothing of value. Videos that treat films less like art and more like content, a mentality that is very beneficial for studios and may be the reason why they're investing thousands of dollars into them. And we're already feeling the effects of this mentality shift, both in how people talk about films and the types of films that are actually made. It's all a little bit concerning. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't genuinely believe that. So today I want to talk about movie TikTok and how they are cultivating one of the worst environments for film discussion. So, for no immediately apparent reason at all, I'm going to be talking about film critic Pauline Kael and illustrate what film criticism can actually be about. Pauline Kael was a critic who rose to prominence for a number of reasons, one of them being her counterculture voice and perspective on film. She very much was a rebel in the film critic space, pushing back on established ideas in film reviews like film objectivity and moralism. She wrote scathing reviews of popular films like The Sound of Music, Lawrence of Arabia. She even had a whole book on Citizen Kane. Her work got her a lot of enemies.
Right.
Pauline Kael.
Yeah.
She's never said a good thing about me yet.
But you like her.
Dirty old broad.
But she wasn't just a hater by any means. She would also use her voice to praise films that were often overlooked by traditional critics. She famously praised the film Bonnie and Clyde, which, at the time, was controversial for its depiction of violence. In small part, she contributed to the film's success and influenced how we look back on it retrospectively. Her perspective was complex, and in turn, it promoted audiences to think about films more critically. Try to understand films in a way they hadn't attempted before.
But she's probably the most qualified critic in the world, because she cares about film and those that are involved in it. I wish I could really rap her, but I can't, because she's very, very competent. She knows what she's talking about.
The same rings true for many other great critics, the likes of Roger Ebert, Gene Siskel, Francois Truffaut before he became a director. They all advocated for and demanded better films in their own unique way. So the reason I bring them up is actually quite funny, because their work and their legacy is being used to draw comparison with TikTok reviews. Quite a bold comparison, I'll say. So the similarities these two groups have is that TikTokers don't see eye to eye with traditional critics in the same way that KO and Truffaut didn't see eye to eye with their peers. That's it. Now the article tries to sell you on the idea that these TikTokers are pioneering a new era of film analysis, which is a ridiculous statement when you delve into what these influencers actually make. From reading this article and doing my own research, it became clear that the TikTok review philosophy had two objectives. One was that they really want to combat film snobbery. Now, that is an open-ended term that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I kind of have an idea of what that might mean, but I'll get into it later. The second objective is to be as nice as possible to films. No, that is not an exaggeration. A recurring subject for most people interviewed in this article was the idea of negative criticism. Some talked about how they didn't like how other people criticized films, others talked about how they don't like being critical towards films and avoid doing so whenever possible. One method involved a compliment sandwich, in which you say a lot of nice things both before and after saying something negative. I'm sorry, call me a film snob, but I don't think that's a good mentality to have when reviewing anything. Like, we don't need to coddle a film like it's a child. In fact, I kind of think it's disrespectful to the artist to do so, because they create art for people to engage with earnestly and critically. There is no value in someone being nice for the sake of being nice. But beyond just artistic reasons, this mentality forgets the reason reviews exist in the first place. Proper film review and criticism functions as a check for studios to make sure they put effort into the films they sell us. To play nice with them is to become complacent. Donkey, a predominantly video game channel, actually made this point best in his Game Critics video.
Anime, my boy, I'll tell you why. Because you can't only review games you enjoy. You need a contrast to differentiate good from bad. Sometimes when you take a chance on a game you might not like, you end up finding something really unique and special. Other times you end up with a Furby going, nah, nah, nah. If you truly want people to stop criticizing video games, then you might as well hand the entire industry over to EA right now. As goofy as this comment is, a lot of people seem to be on board with this logic, which is why IGN gives nearly every major release a 9 or higher.
Now, I don't expect a TikTok influencer to become the next Pauline Kael or Roger Ebert. That would be stupid of me. What I do expect is well-made reviews. I mean, these guys got in the New York Times for a reason, right? Well, knowing their philosophy, it should come as no surprise that TikTokers have some of the most shallow and surface-level film analysis I have ever seen. I want to start off this segment talking about my philosophy on content creation, because I think it will help explain my criticisms with MovieTok. I started this channel because I was disappointed with filmy YouTube, specifically with the overabundance of cynical reviewers, people who cared more about trashing films than actually saying something interesting about them. It wasn't even the negativity that was the problem. If you thought a movie was bad, you should be able to express your opinion on it. My issue was that most of these reviewers solely focused on analyzing the plot and the characters. Now don't get me wrong, those things are important, but it neglects a big aspect of films, which is that films are a form of visual storytelling. A good film should have the visual work in conjunction with the story. There are so many aspects to films that just never get mentioned by these reviewers. One of my favorite channels on here is Your Movie Sucks, who often gets categorized as a cynical reviewer, which I don't agree with. The man makes plenty of content praising and recommending films in his top 10s list. Even in his negative reviews for remakes like The Lion King and Oldboy, he analyzes them along with the original and explains why the original is so effective in a way that I never even considered. I think The Lion King is just okay, but hearing him discuss it really helps put into perspective why that film is so good. I learned his perspective on that film while still retaining my own. But it's not just his long-form content. In his smaller individual reviews, he makes an effort to comment on all the important aspects of filmmaking, not just what the movie is about. And early on when I was getting into film, it really helped me focus on things like cinematography, sound design, and editing in ways I never even considered it before. YMS is not perfect. I don't agree with every take he has, but when I think of a good review done in a video format, I think of YMS. While we still have a ton of cynical reviewers, some even brand themselves like that, we also have a ton of creators who actually analyze films in more in-depth and creative ways. The same cannot be said for TikTok. In fact, most of them fall into the very same pitfalls that cynical reviewers do on this platform, that being never looking beyond the plot and characters. So from here onwards, I'm going to be talking about specific people from the article. Obviously, don't harass anyone I mention. No one in my core audience would do that, but in case this video goes beyond that, I just want to make that clear. So the article opens up with a creator known as Maddie Moo, and her 42-second review of the film What Happened to Monday. Now, I'm just going to play the review in its entirety, speeding it up a little bit to save us some time.
This is one of the most amazing movies that you have to see. If I were to die tomorrow, I'd watch this tonight. What Happened to Monday is a movie where you can only have one child due to overpopulation, but one couple ended up having 7 identical girls. They have to keep it a secret from the government or they'll be executed. The 7 girls are all named after a day of the week. The only day that one of them can go out is the day that they're named after, so that nobody thinks that there are more than one of them. Since all of them have to be the exact same, if one loses a finger, they all have to lose a finger, or else people will know that there's more than one of them. When Monday goes missing from the group, they all have to try to find her while avoiding government execution. And there are a lot of things that they find out about each other. I can't say much more without giving anything away, but this movie is incredible. Cast, the acting, the editing, you will not regret this. It is one of my favorite movies. If you guys want to watch it, it's on Netflix.
So, where's the review? I understand that TikTok is all about short-form content, and that it's hard to condense all that info into 42 seconds, so allow me to help. I've written something here that conveys the same information, but more concise. In a world where families are limited to one child due to overpopulation, a set of identical septuplets must avoid being put to a long sleep by the government and dangerous infighting while investigating the disappearance of one of their own. So, now you have a few more seconds to talk about the other elements of the film. Also, hold on to your seats, because I'm gonna hit you with a pretty big plot twist. I did not write that. No, I stole it from Letterboxd. Specifically, from the front page of the film in the plot synopsis area. Who knew they put the reviews there, you know? Her review has like 24 million views, by the way. Also, her style hasn't really changed since then. Click on any fucking review, and it's just a plot synopsis of the film. Also, every film is good. Now, you might be saying, Zelcher, you're being kind of mean towards film reviews that are pretty inoffensive. Well, to that, I want to add the context that she, by her own admission, works with Hollywood studios and can be paid somewhere upwards to $30,000 for promoting movies. So there's that. Now, that presents a very clear conflict of interest, but these influencers make sure to be as transparent as possible with their promotions whenever possible. Alright, so let's look at a paid video by Maddie. Sped up, of course.
This movie has one of the biggest plot twists I've ever seen in my entire life. So much so that I will be also posting a spoiler video on this movie. Sydney Sweeney and Justice Smith star as a couple together in the movie The Voyeurs, where they move into a new apartment and they can see quite literally everything that is going on in the apartment across from them. Everything. So Pippa and Thomas are spying on the neighbors on the daily, watching them do special hugging activities, and they end up seeing the husband cheat on his wife by bringing in other women and hugging them while his wife is not home. Okay, this is crazy, but they end up using some insane technology to listen in on their conversations across the street, and Pippa just becomes so obsessed with them in the weirdest way. And it just gets even worse when the wife walks into the place where Pippa works and asks her to be friends. I really like this movie because I feel like this could actually happen in real life. I can't put enough emphasis on the fact that this does have the biggest plot twist I've ever seen. Warning, there's a lot of nudity and hugging. I highly encourage you to watch this, and if you want to, it is on Prime Video.
Now, 2 things should pop out to you. 1, it has the same writing style as her What Happened to Monday review. We are just recapping the plot again and adding nothing of our own thoughts. The second thing is, where is the ad disclosure? Did I pick the wrong video? Am I assuming the intention of an innocent person? No. The ad disclosure is right there on the page. You have to go over here and click read more, and boom, there it is. Hashtag ad. Awesome. Can we all agree that hiding it like there is not a good look, especially for a film that's pretty bad? This film was panned by both critics and audiences, so you can't accuse film snobbery for that. But, coincidentally, a positive review for the film is also one that is being paid for as an ad. Now, maybe the money is not actually influencing her opinion. I mean, she does like The Thinning after all. Also, she did mention she would post a spoiler video afterwards, so we can hear her actual thoughts on the film when the money isn't involved. One problem though, she never made that video, and it's been 4 months later. Suspicious. In her defense, she does not consider herself to be a film critic or a reviewer. She is a film recommender, a curator, if you will. But that still isn't a great defense coming from a group of people who value their voice and the personal relationship they have with their audience. It's not a great look if your voice can be so easily bought out like that. But fine, whatever. Let's instead shift our focus to someone who actually views themselves as important. A man known as Straw Hat Goofy. Goofy is one of the biggest creators mentioned in this article. He began his career on YouTube mainly doing trailer reactions, before shifting over to TikTok where he made a wide range of videos, some of them even being reviews. Goofy is actually the person who used the term film snob here, viewing it as his life goal to combat said film snobbery. So like everyone here, I began watching his positive reviews, and then wanted to contrast that with his negative ones. And it quickly became clear that was going to be a hard thing to do, since there kind of weren't any. There were a lot of videos of him being invited to worldwide film premieres, but not many critical reviews. You could throw any superhero sludge at him: The Flash, Shazam 2, Ant-Man 3, Thor 4. They were all somehow fun and enjoyable.
Thor Love and Thunder, just straight off the top, is an absolute blast of an MCU movie. It is everything you loved about Thor Ragnarok, except this time, Taika Waititi has full keys to the amusement park. Now, just like the first Shazam movie, I felt like this movie was a lot of fun. However, this one does up the cringe factor by a lot. Top of my head, the movie is definitely in line with the previous Ant-Man movies, meaning it's a lot of fun and puts the comedy first more than anything. But general hits, this movie is very funny, got some great action set pieces, and the score is fantastic. This movie is mainly focused on you having the best time while watching it, and I'm here for that. At the end of the day, the movie's super enjoyable. You just have to go with the fun.
There's a little something for everyone. Even his worst superhero review, Black Adam, was still considered okay.
Okay, right off the bat, I'm not gonna lie to you. This movie is aggressively okay.
Listen, I'm glad he can enjoy all these films. But when you're in the business of film reviewing, which yeah, when you make thousands of dollars and call your content professionally overthinking, yes, you are part of that business. It's a little bit odd for everything studios make to be good. This is not the main issue, by the way. Positive reviews are fine if you really do feel that way. However, I never really get to fully understand these perspectives because the reviews are just not that informative. My idea of a good review is one that informs me of a film in a way that the marketing doesn't. A positive review should sell me the film by praising the film's best qualities. And a truly effective review sells me not just the movie, but also the reviewer's perspective and experience with the film. Let's take Talk to Me, a very recent horror film that I have not seen. I am part of the audience who would like to be informed of this film. Looking at Goofy and Cinema Joe, another creator in the article, their reviews don't really give me much info on the film. They summarize the plot briefly, they mention the good performances, namely by Sophia Wilde, the fact that it's scary and builds tension, and that the story feels a little underdeveloped but was still good. And that's it. They tell me this is one of the best horror movies of the year.
I want you to know that I think that this is not only the best horror film of the year, this is one of the best films of the year, period.
Talk to Me is the new horror movie from A24 that comes out this Friday. and it's the best horror movie of the year so far.
Yet, I don't really get a sense of that beyond the scenes build tension very well. I'll link both reviews down below so that you can verify what I'm saying here. Again, no hate. Compare this to YMS's review of the film, where he really does sell me on the film. He talks about how well shot the film is, using the one-take opening scene as an example, and he explains how the film uses things like the visuals and sound design to make the film scary.
There's some real talent with these directors, and overall they did a really great job. It is a very professional looking and well shot film. It not only looks nice, but there was clear intent in how things were shown. The beginning of the film had a really interesting long single take scene. Overall, the visual choices were both sensible and artistic. The sound design in this film was also very interesting. There were some possession scenes where they chose to use some really unsettling water sound effects. It was genuinely creepy.
Wow, sounds like an interesting and creative film. I want to go watch it now. And the funny thing is, YMS gave it a lower score than these guys. Now, you might say that TikTokers make short-form content, with these reviews being a minute and a half long. How can they talk about all the filmmaking aspects? It's not possible. Well, the YMS review was only a minute longer, and he didn't even recap the plot. He talked about an issue with the plot briefly, but for the most part, it was just praising the film's creative decisions. This is not a film snob thing either. Like I said before, noting things like sound design and cinematography actually helped me appreciate films more back when all I watched was nothing but Hollywood action films. Truly, I am not trying to gatekeep someone's enjoyment of a film, but when you're part of an article saying traditional critics work with false or unearned authority, and then your own review of a horror film doesn't go beyond telling me that the movie was scary, it's a little silly, right? It's a little silly. And just for fun, let's look at a New York Times review of the film written by Janet Katsoulis. Again, this goes over all the filmmaking aspects. It gives you a plot synopsis, praises the visuals, notably the wonderfully gory practical effects. I didn't know about that, so very interested. It talks about the cinematography and the opening scene, name-dropping the guy who made it happen, Eric McGlisky. And this final paragraph, I think, is a great way to end the article while building some more intrigue for it. Spooky and sad, kinetic and occasionally clumsy, Talk to Me is far from perfect, but close to fine. Watching Mia enjoy a fleeting moment of joy as she and Riley belt out Sia's chandelier in a car before screeching to a halt beside a mortally injured kangaroo, we sense a mounting inevitability. Wherever this journey is taking her, we can't help but feel she's been heading there for a very long time. Would you believe me if I said TikTokers thought this review sounded AI generated? When you read a critic's review, it almost sounds like a computer wrote it. Listen, I'm not here to brown-nose film critics. They got their own set of problems I can make a video about. But this review has way more substance than your local TikToker. It actually talks about the visual storytelling of a film. What's so painfully ironic about this computer comment is that 1, you're on TikTok, and 2, you people actually sound like computers. Genuinely.
Let's talk about one of the most shocking movies I have ever seen, Oldboy. If you guys don't know, Oldboy is a movie from 2003, directed by the legendary Park Chan-wook. It's about a man that is locked in a room for 15 years.
There's no way people actually talk like this. I have to force myself to pull it off. Is this like an algorithm thing? Do TikTok viewers stay watching if you do this? Alright, that's enough of that. If you're wondering why she was talking about Oldboy, it's because Neon recently re-released the film, so a few TikTokers reviewed it. Now, I've watched Oldboy. I love Oldboy, and I was curious to hear what these people thought. What did they enjoy about the film? Well, unsurprisingly, it was just more plot shit. They all mainly focused on the plot twist of the film.
I went into it thinking that it was just gonna be another action, bloody movie. But the plot twist at the end hit me like a truck.
If you're a fan of plot twists, this is a plot twist you will never forget. You will be telling people about it for the rest of your life.
It has one of, or if not the best plot twist in cinematic history, which I'm so grateful I never got spoiled because it was great seeing it on the big screen. I will say that early on in the movie I did predict it, but due to the fantastic storytelling, I completely forgot it.
I watched it yesterday and I don't want to spoil it for you, but my genuine reaction to the ending of that movie was this. What? I'm literally having flashbacks right now.
Now don't get me wrong, the plot twist is surprising, but it's such a small part of what makes this film so amazing. Also, I feel like the twist is far more impactful if you don't know it's coming. It doesn't ruin the film if you realize it beforehand, but why implant that idea into your audience before they even watch the film? It's not like there wasn't anything else to talk about. Oldboy is chock full of amazing qualities, from the cinematography to the editing. The score is amazing. At the very least, they did mention the fight choreography. The thing is, this is all by design. According to the article, the new school of film critics doesn't want to make judgments or claims that go beyond one's personal taste. It's just, how do you feel about the plot and characters? That's it. Because to go beyond that and look at the film's other qualities, engage with it as an art form, that is the height of film snobbery to them. As a result, there's barely any dissenting opinion on there. Reviews are so shallow you can't tell them apart from real thoughts and paid promotions. They really just function as glorified trailers. But who benefits from this, really? Audiences are less informed, they never try to change the way they experience films, and all studios make films that range from okay to very fun and enjoyable. Geez, it's almost like studios should be funding this. Hey, wait a minute! Now, I want to start off this segment by saying that creators have stopped working with major studios following the writer and actor strike. That is genuinely good, and I want to give credit where credit is due. However, I think the issues I bring up are still valid, especially moving forward once the studios finally cave in. So this article also touches on the fact that these creators make a living making these reviews. Not a new concept, obviously. It is an open secret that most successful creators on the platform make a living through sponsorship deals. But who exactly is sponsoring them? Well, according to the article, a creator like Goofy has been working with companies like Disney, Paramount, and Warner Brothers for up to $1,000 to $30,000 for a post that promotes their films. Not to mention that this guy gets invited to like every movie premiere. It does not take a genius to consider that maybe maintaining a working promotional relationship with a company that makes movies that you then have to review with no bias might be a conflict of interest. I don't know, maybe I'm professionally overthinking it. Working with sponsors is not inherently a bad thing. Creators I watch are often sponsored by Mubi. Now one, working with Mubi is not the same as working with giant studios like Universal, and two, it never really feels like the sponsor is influencing the content. Broe Deschanel can slap a Mubi ad on a video about immersive Van Gogh exhibits, and nothing feels out of place. This is very different than, say, making an ad for Megan, effectively being part of the film's marketing campaign, and then making a review for that film shortly after. Do the ethics of that not seem a little questionable? Yeah, I get it, ethics are for snobby film critics, and you're not one of those. But your content still relies on your voice, and you being able to connect with an audience. But as an audience member, I question how much of that is your real voice, and how much of that is you trying to maintain a good relationship with studios. Remember when I said it was hard to find negative reviews for Goofy? Well, apparently, that criticism is common among all these TikTokers. One of them being JStoobs. I will preface this by saying that I actually like her reviews, more so than anyone else in this article. However, when asked about her bias towards positive reviews, she made a semi-revealing comment.
I find it much weirder that there are whole content pages, like on YouTube especially, that are devoted to talking about things that people hate. I always give my honest opinions about things, but yeah, I'm not always gonna share my opinion. Part of that is because this is my job, and brands wanna work with people who engage with stuff positively. Brands wanna work with people who engage with stuff positively.
Yeah, obviously, it should be no surprise that brands like working with people who like them and are really nice to them. Someone who doesn't want to engage with the film critically, or at least not go beyond just the plot. Someone who likes to soften the blows of any criticism they may give, because at the end of the day, the film is always fun and enjoyable. There's a reason why, as the article itself points out, that critics don't work closely with studios like this, because it has an effect on your reputation. And other online creators also struggle with this problem, like YMS.
My biggest issue with it is I'm in the business of recommending things to people. That's my business, is me recommending things to people. If I in the middle of my fucking video say, I also recommend this thing that they're paying me to recommend, that kind of takes a blow to my credibility, does it not? Like, that's my big thing about it. Like, how can you trust me about anything I say if I'm gonna just like take money and, you know, that's what I've been wrestling with, and you know.
Everyone is well aware of the general idea of a conflict of interest. Yet, the aggravating thing is that these TikTokers simply choose to ignore the problem. Like Goofy, for instance. When the article received backlash and he was accused of being a corporate shill, he took this as traditional critics not respecting the job of being an influencer.
So let's talk about this article. Call it what it is, MovieTok creators are corrupt. All right. Let me say something. I'm not going to talk shit about the author of this article. I'm not even going to talk about the article because I think what this is about is that it's the general distaste for what an influencer is. Well, there is little to no respect to the title of influencer to people who seem to have real jobs. As evidenced by the title of that article, you can see what people think of influencers. We're just corporate shills who make funny little videos and we get paid by studios to pretty much promote their shit. And even though I'm standing side by side on a regular basis with the people who've been doing this for decades, there's always going to be people who say that I don't deserve it, shouldn't be there because they think I'm just an influencer. Too long didn't watch. Put some respect on my name.
Again, I'll link the video down below so you know I'm not taking this out of context. First off, I'm happy for your success, and I also think online creators should be taken more seriously. But part of being taken seriously as an influencer means thinking about things like your integrity in association with big studios. Which I know you can do, seeing as how you walked back on your decision to continue working with studios during the strike. Which I will reiterate, was a good decision. The whole strike ordeal actually offers a good chance to reflect on the behavior of said studios. Because the shill criticism is not just about TikTokers. It also concerns studios and why they've chosen TikTok as their main source of promotion. Going back to J Stoobs, her video wasn't just about working with studios. She mentions how she wants to cultivate an audience that is generally positive like her content. That's the desire for any creator, really. The audience, for the most part, is a reflection of the creator. But like I said before, TikTokers, by design, avoid being critical of art. Takes tend to be very simple and surface level. And clearly, the audience doesn't really mind if their favorite influencer gets a little bit of influence by a studio. And hey, that's great for TikTokers. But that's also great for studios. Like, really great. It seems like TikTokers don't want to engage with any kind of criticism. To them, criticism only comes from people who don't respect their jobs. Which is fine, whatever. Let's instead shift focus over to player 2 in this scenario. Big corporations. Let's put this into simple terms. Studios are in the business of making money. Films made by big studios are in the business of making money. There are two ways a studio can get you to watch their movie, and that's through its own marketing, which it has the most control over, and through reviews or general public reception, something that isn't in their control. Studios would love nothing more than to be able to buy good press. And unfortunately, influencers have given them that opportunity. You know, I can sit here and tell you all how I feel about influencer-corporation relationships, but some of you will still remain unconvinced. I think the best way to explain the issue is to talk about how studios really feel about their influencer relationships. Because, undeniably, studios are really hoping they're influencing the influencer. Around the same time as this article, The Guardian released an article about the influencer-corporation relationships pertaining specifically to press events. You see, press events were usually attended by the press. I know, shocking. However, press events for Barbie were mainly loaded with influencers. Now, this obviously came at the cost of letting film critics attend their events. In fact, most critics were told there would be no press events, only to later find out through Twitter that they did happen. All this was intentional, by the way, right down to the Twitter posts. As Manuela Lassick wrote in her article, the usher introducing the London Press preview screening of Barbie told them to feel free to share your positive feelings of the film on Twitter. In doing so, the event becomes less of a formal press event and functions more as a promotional campaign, one that could feel artificially organic, and with enough plausible deniability if these influencers were ever accused of bias. Now, you might think, Zelcher, you're looking into this statement just a little too much. And to that I say, no. Corporations and marketing campaigns know exactly what they're doing. This is a very common strategy. Prefacing your content with a little call to action for the audience is like the gold standard for YouTubers. 9 out of 10 YouTubers will start their video by telling you to comment and subscribe. It might sound stupid, but it actually works. YouTubers wouldn't be doing that if it didn't. Which, by the way, you should like, comment, and subscribe. The success of this type of marketing campaign has been undeniably successful. Looking back at the original article, Sony executives have cited MovieTok campaigns as one reason for the strong performance of Insidious: The Red Door. At its core, studios view their influencer relationships as just another way to buy more positive press. Okay, so studios like hyping themselves up, and TikTokers don't really care about their integrity. What's the big deal? Well, this is gonna sound like a film snob answer, but at this point, I don't care. This marketing campaign, which is what it is, actively hurts genuine, honest film discussion and critique. In fact, we are already feeling the effects of it right now. We've slowly but surely entered an era where people don't want to think about the media they consume. They just want to consume. Some people call it the Marvel brain rot, but a more universal term would be being fan-brained. Fan here referring to someone who is a die-hard brand loyalist, someone who thinks the only value a film has is in how entertaining it is. It's someone whose only personality trait is liking things. If there's anything a fan hates most of all, it's hearing a dissenting opinion. And it's here where TikTokers function best, and why studios choose to fund and promote them. Their philosophy on movie reviews and media consumption very much leans toward being fan-brained. Gone are the days of hearing different perspectives. Every film is fun and enjoyable, but if it's bad, you can still give it a compliment sandwich, cause it's never really that bad. But if a film is truly awful, it transcends the tastes of even TikTokers, they will simply just not post a review, cause doing so would upset Mickey Mouse, and he pays their bills, and invites them to nice events. Then along comes a different dipshit TikToker to say that this film is actually pretty fun, and the fan cycle continues. This is just that age-old phrase again. If everything is good, then nothing is good. The word loses value. With studios being able to buy good press and fans just eating that shit up, it tells them that they can just do the bare minimum and still make money. Every part of the filmmaking process is getting corporatized, and filmmakers have been pretty vocal about this. Directors like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino have all raised issues surrounding the new filmmaking philosophy, but studios like Disney can always count on the fans to help protect the brand. And guess what? They were all fucking right. The reason why Marvel films feel so corporatized now is because they quite literally are. It's so odd seeing a group of people be so vehemently against film snobbery, when fan-brained audiences are quite possibly the most toxic group of people out there. Fan behavior is the reason why a film critic like A.O. Scott retires from film reviews, why a director like Paul Schrader thinks movies are in a downward spiral. Fan mindset is a mindset of conformity. And TikTok sells the mindset of conformity. It is the most profitable and promoted mindset on the platform. There's a term in politics known as useful idiot. Harsh words, but I did not come up with the phrase. It refers to someone that essentially helps propagandize for a cause without really understanding the goals of the cause or its leaders. And that's essentially how TikTokers are acting. I'm willing to give TikTokers the benefit of the doubt in that the money doesn't actually influence their opinions, but the fact that your reviews are so lax and focus on being nice, minimizing anything bad, the fact that you're all so against the idea of criticism purposefully stoking flames by calling it film snobbery, those are ideas that studios would also love to promote. And it's why you guys, out of any other type of online influencer, are the ones they treat the best. It's true, you guys are not critics, because that would require you to actually critique something. And if what you claim is true, you aren't shills either. I'm willing to believe that. But that just leaves you in one position, a position that Pauline Kael herself outlines best in her Sound of Music review. I think it is not going too far to say when an expensive product of modern technology, like the Sound of Music, uses this sort of universal appeal. It is because nothing could be safer, nothing could be surer. Whom could it offend? Only those of us who, despite the fact that we may respond, loathe being manipulated in this way, and are aware of how self-indulgent and cheap and ready-made our responses we are made to feel. And we may become even more aware of the way we have been used and turned into emotional and aesthetic imbeciles. The audience for a movie of this kind becomes the lowest common denominator of feeling: a sponge. TikTokers are very useful sponges. So, it's time to say the magic Zelcher words. This video took longer than I expected. That was mainly because of real-life things I had to take care of, but also the script went through quite a few rewrites, because something I learned from the drinker video was that I should probably try explaining myself better and taking the effort to make people understand my position. I'm aware that this kind of topic seems kind of insignificant from a surface level, and considering everything else going on in the world, that is a fair thought to have. But I thought it was important when I read it. A lot of the ethical issues were just kind of swept under the rug and normalized. Then there was the smugness, and after hearing all of these people be so divisive and dismissive, I had to do it. I had to get my critiques out there in the open, because these guys need to get off their high horse. Even if you hate, regular film critics, and you also think that they're all film snobs, you gotta admit that TikTok reviewers somehow manage to be worse. Literally the most shallow reviewers I've ever seen. Anyways, thank you to all the patrons, as usual. You guys are real ones. Thank you for putting up with my weird, wonky fucking upload schedule. I really appreciate that. And yeah, hopefully the next couple of videos don't take as long. I will be trying to get back into making proper film analysis videos and not just these kind of drama-esque videos, although these do pretty well. So I don't know. I would like to make more kind of niche, obscure film analysis, but I also would like to keep the lights on in my place. So I don't know. We'll see where I go. We'll see what happens. Anyways, take care and peace.